evening, ladies and gentlemen, all between. Jason, my brother, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Good. How's your week?
Not too bad.
Yeah, I found some good music for tunage next week coming up.
Oh, very good.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty interesting in the search for music, man. It's out there, and you know,
You really have to dig these days. It's not like when we were young, when you had just a small handful of bands and you kind of like knew, through the magazines and that what was coming up. Now, there's a ton of stuff, but it might not be being promoted and all that, so
yeah, and I think it's cool when we come across bands and they have like 12 followers or something.
yeah.
Or they just posted it and they're like, hey man, and you find something like just by accident that's
Right.
fantastic. I mean, because the best thing about the internet is everyone can put their music out, but the worst thing is
Everyone can put their stuff out.
absolutely. So, but it's out there, and man, it's we're finding it all over the world, and it's just feels like we're back in the record stores back in the 80s at the import section,
Yeah.
Friday night after payday. So anyway, let's bring on Mr. Metalhead Fred Bonanno. What's going on, sir?
What's up, Fred?
Good evening, gentlemen. Is there a better way to spend a Saturday night than with Vince and Jason and a cold beer, talking music?
Absolutely. And of course, Metalhead Fred writes for MetalTemple.com, does reviews over there. And
I do.
Fred and I do Monday Metal. Absolutely. So, Fred, tell us what we have in store this evening.
Well, tonight we have the multi-talented singer and songwriter David Reece that has fronted, to name a few, Accept, Bonfire, and Bangalore Choir. He's just released his 7th solo album, Baptized by Fire, which has been described as full-blown heavy metal and melodic rock with a modern production. He can explain that to us. His musical resume is long and amazing, so he got a lot of ground to cover tonight. There's no better way to do it. Bring him out so we can get into it. So please welcome to Creativity Talking, coming to us from the beautiful country of Italy, David Reece.
Greetings, everybody.
Hey,
David.
Proud to be surrounded by rock royalty here. I mean, maybe some of your cousins, Bonanno, live in my neighborhood. Who knows?
They might have. If they did anything, they drove the getaway car.
Just think about it.
Don't say anything. Yeah, it was to kid my friends. I got my first job, and that is considered driving a getaway car job. So hey, they can make fun of us. They can make fun of us. We all better learn to laugh at that shit because we're all getting too sensitive.
There's been a lot worse said about me, so don't worry about it. You're in the clear.
Right.
Full contact sport, right? Rock and roll.
Yeah, absolutely. So, David, I'm researching you. I got a ton of notes here because I didn't realize just how incredible your career has been. So, I don't know if we should start at the beginning or maybe just get into the new album, Baptized by Fire, which I will be reviewing for Metal Temple. And I can tell you right now, I absolutely love what I've heard. So you want to start from the beginning or you want to talk about the new album?
We can touch on the kickoff a little bit and then get right into the new phase, I guess. Like everyone else, I kind of just started off in the boys' choir as a kid. Got tired of getting my ass kicked by the other dudes at school because those days it was considered a sissy occupation. And had a music teacher coming to my house, my choir teacher, saying, this kid needs to come back. He's got something. And, I didn't want to get my ass beat anymore. So I quit going. And my mother told her, said, hey, he's sick of it. And I regret that. But I do remember my first recital was singing yesterday in front of the whole school with her accompanying on an acoustic guitar. and everybody going cuckoo. And that, I don't know what that feeling is. I still get it. It's hard to explain that chemical.
Right.
That feeling was elation and like, hey, I matter. I did something right. This is, I guess, what I am. I don't know at that time because I was really young, but you never forget those little things in our life, right? There's little moments that kind of stick there in their catalog.
Yeah. Right.
That's how I started. I mean, and then I know clowning around as a teenager. I loved Zeppelin and Queen and Deep Purple. Machine Head was my first rock album, and Alice Cooper School's Out. I bought them and I played them till they were just dull.
Right.
Sniffing them, looking at.
Oh, got a little delay here.
Frozen up here.
We'll see if he comes back.
Yeah, he's in Italy. He'll be down there.
Alice had a pair of women's panties that were like paper with a silk bow wrapped around the vinyl. For a 12-year-old kid, that was pretty cool to hide in your dress rehearsal.
Right.
So, long live Alice. But yeah, and then at an early age, I left home, and then the guy that I was staying with, I was working in factories, and I'd come home from work, and he'd have chicks laying around the floor, and his strap, and crooning them, and he played in club bands, and one thing led to another. I was in the shower singing before work, and he threw the curtain open and said, "Dude, you could sing. Want to join my band?" And so it begins. Start playing the clubs, kicking around. My story is not much different than others, really. It's just a matter of being in the right place at the right time.
Right.
Yeah.
It was meant to be,
Yeah. And here I am somewhere in Italy and, still trying to keep the fire burning, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you started singing, did you just naturally come about it, or did you have some training as well?
Well, my grandmother, we're from Oklahoma originally, and every day, the smell of coffee and her puffing a cigarette, listening to, Conway and Loretta and George Jones and Hank Sr. I mean, she sang all day, and that was her thing. And you just kind of get stuck in your head where she's carrying you around and singing. You're singing with her. Before you know it, you know every word.
Right.
And you say, "Mama, put that one on, put that one on." And that was my introduction, I think. And her family were all, gifted fiddle players, guitar pickers. And after it's kind of skipped her generation. And then one day I remember her saying when I got into Accept, "Oh, another one came out of the woodpile. Here it is."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's pretty awesome that you started out with old country too. I mean, I as well, my first memories of music was country music, and I went on to be a metalhead as well. But it's funny how, the genre doesn't really matter. It's just, that seed gets planted,
Yeah. It's a beautiful seed. Music is, without it, I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah, I came up on like a lot of Eddie Arnold as well, and all those
the deep, baritone voice and fantastic stuff. Television shows. I mean, remember there was a Glenn Campbell show. There was a Johnny Cash show. There was Hee Haw. It was all music related. That the families would gather just to the comedy side of it, and then to see the up and coming stars. And those guys would always welcome, the next thing, the picker. Look how many careers were launched from those TV shows. It was magic time.
Right. Yeah.
Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Johnny Cash.
Brilliant.
That was a great show.
Yeah.
And what a man, what a legend. I mean, I think guys like Trent Reznor were probably in their diapers going, "I want to be that dude." Who is that guy?
Yeah. No doubt. And speaking of Glenn Campbell, I mean,
oh, what a great player.
Oh yeah. And it was many years before I realized he was in the Wrecking Crew, which were like, and anybody that knows the Wrecking Crew knows like, how many hits they were responsible for, for creating.
I think I read a story where Tedesco was sitting in a room, chart reading, intentionally putting Campbell's upside down. And Campbell
yeah.
ripped through it, and Tedesco looked at him and said, "I hate that guy."
Right,
Who is that guy? But he'd always try to sabotage all the guys because he was the first call, A-list call, top five, And he just looked at it and said, "Got it."
Yeah, no doubt.
That's crazy. The amount of people have, played on thousands of hits.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the metal guys. I just learned that yesterday. Ronnie Wood played on Arthur Brown's Fire. He played bass.
Really?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
I just, I'm looking at it going, what? Ronnie Wood on bass? Really?
Yeah.
So, I mean, those cats were playing on everyone's records,
Wow.
Yeah. I always thought it was cool that Superstition, right? That Jeff Beck was dicking around on the drum kit. And Steve, he's like, keep playing that. He's like, what? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy, Beautiful Mistake.
Yeah. Beautiful Mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a new song title. Thank you. I just wrote that down.
Right on.
See? That's good. Beautiful Mistake.
Hey, you got to give us credit then if it comes out on the record.
Got it.
Use it as our theme.
It'll get stuck in rehearsal today. I'll start singing something.
Hey, we'll die happy. We'll be showing all our friends. Hey, man.
Yeah.
Right.
We want that. We want that penny. We want that penny check from Spotify when it comes.
Yeah.
Hey, listen. There's 5 of us, so it's going to be a little bit less than a penny. So
that's right.
A lot less.
Yeah.
Penny split 5 ways. We'll take it.
How do you think? How do you think that's going to get reckoned? The whole Spotify. Is there a way to reckon it to make it? I don't understand. It's so impossible, to pay the artist.
I mean, I hear all these guys that have made $50 million say, well, it's the new way. We must adapt and reform and conform. I'm like, F you. Right. I mean, you guys, in those days, we were getting 9 cents a vinyl in the 80s.
And that was bad enough, right? It's like.
Well, you had to sell 2 million records, but you also had touring.
Yeah.
Where you could go out and if you got lucky and had a single, you could, get a hit record and then jump it up to 2 or 3 million records. Towards the end of that, going back to your question, what do I think of Spotify? It's a funny story. I just did some shows in the U.S. last month. My wife called me, we did the check-in. Oh, you got a check today? And I was like, yeah, from who? Spotify. And I go, don't tell me. She started laughing. She goes, €8. And it was, I think, 165,000 streams.
And you got €8 for that much.
Yeah. And that was, it's just, you have to laugh at it. And the most laughable part to me is the guy that is a genius. He's never played a guitar or sang a note in his life and got this idea.
Right.
How can I screw the artist and make more money?
I know, but I keep asking myself. This, I lose track of time, but it's been sort of the new standard for a while now, and I go, how is this still standing?
Well, give credit to Lars and the guys in Metallica. When Napster came out, they went to Congress, said, and I think the response from the Congress was, well, you're already rich anyways. What do you care? He said, I care for the guy that's sitting behind the drums in the garage, 12 years old, bashing his brains out 12 hours a day. That kid, I got lucky. This is going to destroy his chances. And at the time, I didn't really think much about Metallica, but I went, man, that dude was spot on.
Yeah, they knew. Yeah, it's just, I think when it first started out, the streaming thing, I thought, well, maybe this is just transitional. It'll, because the record companies had kind of fallen by the wayside, at least the old paradigm that we knew in the, in the 70s, 80s. And I thought it was going somewhere, but it just seems like it's hung up at this spot. And it's like,
they've never been really good at seeing past their nose, record companies, and I don't think they were fully prepared for the nuclear explosion. That's what left it wide open for guys that were entrepreneurs to go, I can cash in on this. This will blow over. But so wrong.
It's just crazy though, because I mean, it's like, it just seems to me. I mean, and what do I know? But it seems like bands basically have to like, pay for their own albums. Basically, it's sort of like almost worthless recording now, unless you can just make it up in the touring, right? Am I correct on that?
Yeah, but it's a curse. I mean, it's because you don't want to surrender,
Right.
so you keep hoping that the next album will, open more doors and you'll get better tours. But it just seems, especially since after COVID, um, it just really was a bottomless hole. But so many great talents. I mean, it's just like you said, they're self-financing records. They're doing Kickstarters. People aren't reaching their pocket that so-called support them, and you're on your own every day. I mean, I was on the phone. I go to school at night on a couple days a week for the Italian language here, and other than that, I'm immersed in rehearsal, writing, emailing a gazillion people, and yeah, one thing that seems to have been lost even more so in this culture we live in is the common decency to say yes or no. Interested, not interested. You can send out 50 emails and not get one response. I'm sure you guys deal with that as well.
Absolutely.
It's just cold. I mean, then you get, okay, I'll do a follow-up and then nothing. And then you start thinking, I got some choice words for this cat or this woman. I would respond to them saying no, thank you, or yes, I'd be interested in that. But it's even gotten, this black hole of nothingness.
Yeah, we deal with that too. I would rather somebody just say, nah, not interested. At least you got a response. But yeah, exactly right. They'll just blow you off,
Yeah. I mean, how hard is it? Well, going back to that, I mean, saying no is probably the biggest lesson I learned in the industry.
Oh, for
I used to just be so, God, I'm here. I'm in the big office with all these cats. It's got all the pocket full of blow and, the nice chicks and the cars. And I want to be, if I say I don't agree with that, they're going to kick me out the door. And then I'm going to climb the bottom of the rung again and try to work my way in. But they'll make a million phone calls, say, don't touch that guy. He's toxic. But one day I finally had enough and said, no, I'm not going to do that. That's ridiculous. And it was amazing. Well, what can we do to make you happy, Mr. Reece? I ended up with 3 times the amount offered than I started at. And I just kicked myself for a month. What was I afraid of?
Right.
Basically, just no. And then yes. And a lot of the yeses actually meant no. So it's just stupid lessons you learn, Yeah.
So
I guess
I would assume. I'm sorry. I'm just assuming, David, the website, and you've got an incredible website. I assume that's got to help a lot because you can get everything you want off your website. You've got one of the best websites I've seen of a musician out there. I mean, it takes a while to navigate through that. You got so much information out there, and that's great. I would assume that hugely helps getting you.
It does. There. It does. It's a strange thing though. It's hard to get. I am blessed to have those 30-year ago people still curious and interested in what I'm doing. But like you said, now the newer bands getting newer people to actually pull the trigger and go, I want to check this out rather than 10 seconds of a stream and then move on. Because the information is so intense that I think it's a lot for people to handle. But I do, try to keep myself out in the public eye as much as possible, because otherwise, like I said, they'll forget you were here later today.
Right.
And there's just that few Taylor Swifts in the world that are on top for 3 years and then nobody mentions their name, but they really managed to do something. The stars align and boom.
Yeah.
And I've just kind of cruised through my career. It's never been super huge financially or super, super low. It's just been kind of this, at least I'm in the game.
Yeah. So I was curious now, in the my youth of Love and Accept, I particularly always dug things and how did you how did that happen that you ended up being Accept? What was the process with that? Was there like an audition call?
It was all, like I said, the right place at the right time. I was in LA. I'd been in a really big Midwestern club band. And Prince being from Minnesota, where I kind of got my real kick, everybody in the band believed that his entourage would come to us because we knew Des Dickerson and a few people. That's not going to happen. I mean, Prince was signed on a 4-track demo. Nobody even saw him. Owen Husney and Mo Austin heard the kid's talent and had the vision to go sign that kid. But, so I went to LA and I knew a woman named Lucy Forbes, and her thing was, it was called Rock Congress, this agency, and her idea was a placement agency for artists in bigger bands. And at the time, I was starving to death. I was sleeping on a hardwood floor, Santa Monica, next to a propane fake fireplace.
Yeah.
And I just said, screw it, man. I'm getting out of here. It's not going to happen. Get a life. And I had recorded a 4 or 5 song demo tape with Mitch Perry, the guitar player, from Talus and Schenker, and left in such haste that I basically left it at her apartment. And Dieter Dirks, the producer of the Scorpions, was kind of dating her and had flown into LA for liaison and to do some Scorpion business and said, hey, I got a problem with this guy that we're using. Rob Armitage was his name, English guy. It's not working. I need a singer for Accept. Do you know anybody? She goes, check this guy out. And she hands him the cassette, and he played it in his car and went, that's the guy. Where is he? And I had not told her that I'd gone to Colorado because my family had moved there and I had begun the construction life again. And one night, sitting in my house, the phone rang and it was Wolf Hoffman. And, I think it's Mickey Mouse. It's a joke, right?
Right.
Hello, it's Wolf Hoffman. We are interested in your voice. We have your songs. I'm like, what? And he's like, I'm an Accept band because, in some of the club bands we played Restless and Balls and not a lot, but
throw them in the mix every once
offered me they sent me a 2-inch tape with some of the old material. So I ran up to a studio in Denver and sang Balls and the classics and then sent it back to them. And probably a week later, I was on a plane to Dusseldorf. And the reality slaps you in the face. You're in a club singing situation. You're trying to emulate Halford and all these guys because you want to get paid and you're playing all the classics. And you're trying to write songs, but when you walk into something of that level, you learn really quick the work involved. And there's a German way ethically of working. And then, literally, I'd been there maybe 8 hours and not really slept and woke up to Peter Baltus banging on my door going, let's go. And I thought, where are we going? He goes, to the studio. And I go, oh, cool. I get to meet the Scorpions. That's how green I was. And they were finishing Savage Amusement.
Yeah.
I walk in and there's Dieter Dirks. I know his name, but I've never seen his face. And Rudolf Schenker, of course, is standing there and they're arguing. And I said, hey, I'm David Reece, blah, blah, blah. And they just looked at me like, get away from me, and Peter drug me immediately into a basement demo studio, put on a reel and said, this is the title idea, sing something. What? So for days, I would scribble lyrics, sing a line, rewind. This went on for weeks. And at night, the rest of the band would come in and listen to what I'd done. So I kept gaining a little more ground. But I was never really welcomed into the group until the final shebang, which was a live gig in Cologne. And they advertised it as Germany's biggest metal band. They didn't say the name. But everybody knew that except that Udo had left. And
right.
So my first gig was, 3,000 people standing out in front of a club, terrified. And I thought, well, I'm going to go I'm going to get sent home tomorrow. I'm going to give it everything I got.
Right.
And I did. And I heard them all speaking the next morning. The manager at the time said, go get your little groupies and have a great time tonight. Talk to you tomorrow. And I thought, well, I'm just going to party like hell and get on a plane and go home. And I heard them talking. I said, well, face the music. Went upstairs and they extended their hand and said, welcome to Accept.
Wow.
Weird.
Wow. No pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. I was going to say it must have been nerve-wracking, you know?
Well, you got culturally, you're completely different.
Right.
Yeah.
You got a band that's got an icon as a singer, Udo Dirkschneider, who's a dear friend of mine, and we've done tours together. And he was doing Mean Machine at the same time as we were doing Eat the Heat. So he was always gracious and telling me what to do and how to deal with it and watch out for this, look out for that. But to replace a guy of that stature, I mean, it's people totally loved me and they totally hated me. There was no middle ground, because the European audience, if they grow with a band from birth, and there's a statement in America, here today, gone later today.
Right.
Well, in Europe, if you do a few stinker records, they'll still be loyal, rabid fans. Yeah. So they felt betrayed by my presence or something. Kind of like when Tim joined Priest,
Right.
It's not easy,
Right.
No, and he did great stuff. I mean, sorry.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, so when you joined Accept, and I know Udo left under creative differences with the band, they wanted to get
not his. It was all corporate.
Oh.
Okay.
They could only cap 400,000 records in America, and the labels are saying we're either going to break this band or it's over.
Really? See, I never knew. I always wondered why he left. I never actually ever heard a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
they
all
wanted to go a little more melodic, right? They wanted to get away from the heavy sound, right?
Well, they were doing that, with Russian Roulette and Metal Heart. If you listen closely to Eat the Heat and those other records, there's that shift. It still had Udo's iconic voice, but the melodic change and melodies were starting to build, and the labels just said, hey, we're not putting the capital into this because you're only kind of capping off at 400,000 units in the States, and we're not going to spend any more money across the pond, and let's break this thing. Let's get an English-speaking guy, more commercialized, and that's what offended the fans. I mean, they took it personal.
Right.
So then, how much input did you and or the band have in this album, or was it all corporate saying, "Here's where we're doing it, just do it," or did they actually let you guys have some input?
Well, Peter Baltus, I have to say, was a huge input on that record, and so was Stefan Kaufman, who was the drummer at the time. And my real start as a lyricist, kind of cutting my teeth how to write songs, and like I said, there's a work ethic in Germany. You're talking 12-hour recording days, 12-hour rehearsal days. It's not, let's get together for an hour and run the set. Mm-hmm. It's finite tuning of each idea, and then you go into pre-production with guys like Dieter Dierks, and they rip the thing that I learned from Dieter was halfway through making the record, he stopped recording and he looked at me and he said, if this fails, it's your fault and my fault. We will be blamed for the failure of Accept. And I just went, I'm great. I'm David Reece. This will never happen. But no words truer have ever been spoken. And then we carried on, and I was pissed off thinking, why would you say that? But, he was just kind of letting me know this is a tough sport. But I would say that Peter was musically the guy, knowing where they wanted the band's direction to go, and he was writing those riffs, and so was Stefan, the drummer. He's actually a great guitar player too. Wolf would come in and do his, licks and stuff, but they were the foundation of the songwriting.
And
I hope I answered the question.
So basically, image-wise, there's also a shift due to probably blame it on MTV era.
Yeah, and you know this. Yeah, I mean,
when you first got that gig, I was like, this dude's got balls of steel. Like to be able to go in front of an iconic band like that takes a lot of. One, of course, you're talented, you know, no question. But then, I mean, that's a lot to take on. You know what I mean? Because, you know, but I'm sure, you know, every crowd you went to, you saw more of it turn to your favor. So that must have been an interesting thing as well.
Well, it was pretty much split down the middle. I mean, I had no idea.
Yeah, because no iconic bands had really replaced a vocalist. You know what I mean? So that was
right.
Like new, you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
you know, AC/DC got away with it.
Right.
They got lucky because they had written Back in Black for Bond.
Right.
And they had just broke with Highway to Hell.
Right.
And I can't imagine how great Back in Black would have been with Bond. I mean, it just would blow your mind. But Brian Johnson, that was a lucky transition.
Yeah, but it was very rare, you know, at that point.
Yeah,
it happens all the time. You know what I mean? But
I can't replace Udo, and I say that all the time.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, I mean, he is the sound of Accept, even now. I mean, he's doing Dirk Schneider, and then he does UDO, and all Accept tunes and Dirk Schneider, and then his new stuff with UDO, and he's got this. Was one point made to me by the corporate. And I said to them one day, I go, what is it about that guy? You know, because things were going south at that time. And they said, he's one of them. And I said, what do you mean? He's the working class Zollingen German steel factory worker that everybody feels comfortable with. You're threatening to them. You know, you're wearing these shiny clothes, your bleach blonde hair, you know, but Udo is part of them. Yeah. And I went, oh my God, that's fucking true. I mean, wow, that's it. You know, right? Yeah. You know, because everybody wanted a blonde singer and David Lee Roth kicking in the air and, you know, ooh, baby, I love you. And
Absolutely. And I mean, let's face it, I love Udo, but he never like had the pretty, you know, rock star looks, you know what I mean? You know.
Yeah, but who buys the records? The metal community or male.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Shockingly. I mean it. Right. And I was the special guest on the Steel Factory tour, Accept Singers, and it was very successful. And it was funny because Eat the Heat was one of those records that everybody still talks about now, more so now than 30 years ago.
Right.
And people would come up to me and say, I apologize for hating your guts. I really love this album now. Would you sign it for me? It's like, nice. And I signed them all the time. Yeah, because they had just reissued Eat the Heat on like a limited orange vinyl, like 2,000 copies. I saw it every night. Yeah. And playing those songs from Eat the Heat, everybody was into it, whereas it was a fight, you know, when it came out. And releasing Generation Clash was a dumb move, corporate. I mean, we should have did Ecstasy or D-Train. Let them know we were still a metal band, but you know, then kind of ease into the more commercial songs to get people used to the new guy. Dumb move. Or some people said, should have changed the name of the band. Well, then you get into the branding issue, right?
Yeah.
New band used to be Accept, but I mean, what would they do? Would they lose all that fan base? And you know, it was a.
We'll call it Accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're from Minnesota. You could have said the band formerly known as Accept. Still from Prince.
Yeah.
So
you guys come with.
I know you said you're friends with Udo. You actually backed him up. What was it? 2019. You opened for.
Yeah, somewhere around there, 18. Yeah, so we did like 35 shows.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was a great tour. Udo, I mean, I'm going to be blunt. He was taking a shit in the stall when I walked in the bathroom to warm up for the gig, and he screamed at me, "Reece, shut up! I'm trying to take a shit. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that silly warm-up bullshit. Stop it!" You know. And he finished, and he came in and hugged me and said, "Hey, man, good to see you. It's good to see you." And The thing about Udo is that tour had an infection in his bone in his leg. And that guy, I remember Wolf telling me way long time ago, he would have 104 fever, just sip wine all day, smoke cigarettes, and go out and do it every night. It's a German tank. And he had this terrible bone infection, and his had begun the tour in Spain, and they told him, go home, rest. I never cancel. So, I mean, he did the tour with a cane, a metal cane, and the stage manager said, well, that thing's shining all in the lights. They put black duct tape on it so you really couldn't see it. And I mean, he ripped it every night, man. I mean, he's the real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking to a guy last week, and he said he was in a bar. This is going back a few years ago, and Udo's in there, and he recognized him, so he's talking to him, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, Udo headbutts this guy in the face. Blood starts shooting out everywhere. Well, it turned out somebody behind Udo was drunk, backed into him, and knocked Udo into this guy. And Udo was like, I can't believe I hit you. But the other guy said, that's okay. This is my badge of honor for the rest of my life. I got headbutted by Udo Dirkschneider. He goes, I don't give a fuck. I'm telling that story wherever I go. That's a badge of honor.
We were in Hamburg, and it was an old theater, and everything's black backstage, painted black, right? Like the chances and all it was and all that. You can't see where you're going. And they had poorly lit the stairway going to the stage. And the last step was really high. And he's on a cane, right? I do my show, and I go to the balcony kind of off to the side to watch him play and look at the crowd. It's full, great house. And he comes out and takes that last step. And he's a small guy and doesn't realize that how high the step is. Face plants on a hardwood floor. I mean, boom, his nose, everything. Wipes it off, walks out, and just ripped it. I mean, his head bounced. I mean, same thing, right? I mean, I went, dude's got balls, man. He's the man. I mean, I thought, oh my God, he knocked himself out. But he just, and then strangely enough, while I'm watching the show, all these security guys are running around with those little battery operated trigger lights, sticking them everywhere. So in case Udo sues us, for what just happened, it's like daylight back there. Half an hour later, I'm like, well, you're finally thinking, but
Udo probably got up and said, Udo, okay, me sing, right?
Just like that one time when David Lee Roth sliced his nose wide open on live television,
Yeah,
I just put some duct tape on it,
How about the one where Roth was doing the second album tour? I read that he was doing his infamous double eagle and jumped off and hit the mirrored ball that he didn't realize was above the stage and smashed his face into it, and mirror chunks are falling down, and his whole face is covered in blood, and did the gig. I mean, that's rock and roll. I mean, broke his nose.
He's like, let's go. That was hilarious. He just wanted to put duct tape on it. He was going to put like gaffer's tape on it. And, he's like, no. He's like, I'm a paramedic.
A rock star, man. I mean, I got a job to do. Let's go. And Eddie's looking at him. Remember that? That picture of Eddie looking at
a beautiful thing to have like all the younger artists see who like, I broke a nail. I'm going to cancel my show. Oh, all this stuff was going on. And, here
not Dave.
This is his face open on live TV, and it's. Let's get back to it, shall we?
Yeah. I saw David Lee Roth with Van Halen years ago, and somebody threw something at David, and it hit the floor, and I don't think he slipped on it, whatever, but he picked it up and he kind of singled the guy out, and he says he stops the song, and he just looks and goes, that guy just threw something at me. He goes, that's okay, because I'm going to fuck his girlfriend at the show tonight. That's how you get back at him. That's how you get back at him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's almost as if it was staged, but it's not.
Right.
The wit kicks in and the Roth kicks in. It's like, I got you, man.
Man, for the time, Dave and Eddie and Alex and Mike in their prime, that was like the most bombastic, just. Dude,
I worked a show. for a show company, and I didn't actually work this show, but one of our band members was load-in guy for a place in Minneapolis, and it was the first album tour. I know it was after it was before the Sabbath tour, and it was Van Halen first, then it was Montrose and Journey with Wheel in the Sky album, right?
Wow.
And he's a brilliant guitar player, and he starts calling everybody, "Get your ass down here now. I don't know what I'm looking at, but the earth has just shifted." And they opened up and Light Up the Sky, and I went to the gig,
too, man.
and I'm standing there in typical rock fashion. He's in platform shoes. I'm literally bent completely backwards, touching his head on the floor, strutting around and doing these kicks with 70s disco shoes. And they had these big metal industrial fans to blow his hair to look cool.
Yeah.
And I remember him strutting around like this, and the girls are pissing themselves, and he fluffed his hair and then looked back at the audience, and it was like the Beatles had landed or something. And
Right.
that guy played the Jimmy Page style guitar, literally put his Les Paul in the closet and said, "I'm done. I don't know what just happened, but the world of guitar playing." He quit. He said, I'll never attain that. I'll never be that good. Whatever he does, I can't do.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean when Eddie hit the scene, a lot of these young cats don't realize, because they grew up here, but they don't realize that when Eddie came from out of nowhere, like that shit hadn't been done before. Nobody even knew what they were hearing.
Yeah. I mean, when him and Randy were competitors in LA, right? When it was coming up, and when Randy would show up, Eddie would turn his back to him. "Randy's here. I don't want him seeing my tricks," and vice versa. Eddie would sneak around and watch Randy, and he would turn his back. Like, how does he do that? And and it was real competitive, in the sense that they were the two guys, everybody was focused on. Right. And he kind of stayed in California for a long time. And then, well, what happened? He really got me, and Eruption came out,
Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah. We're lucky to be part of it, our life.
I recently was at the Whiskey A Go-Go, and I just looked around that place, and I said, just think about unbelievable musicians that have been through these doors and played on that stage.
Right.
Eddie and Randy and Motley Crue, and think about history in that place.
Yeah.
I saw Motley's first show live. I played there, yeah. When Bangalore Choir came out that was our release party through KNAC, and it was called ABC in Concert. Was there filming it, and it was sold out. And I was in the dressing room with a guy named Herbert Worthington, who was Jimi Hendrix's personal photographer. Oh, and I'm standing upstairs, and he points to the door that goes down the stairs to the stage, and he said, "You see that door?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I was here the night Janis kicked it off the hinges and walked on and gave one of the greatest performances of her life. I witnessed her with her boots pounding whiskey, going, 'Let's do it, boys,' and take her high platform move, and kicked it off the hinges." And it was like, wow, But yeah, when you're on that stage, it's like you go in there and you set up and you go, and this is the whiskey. And then you go in the dressing room, and then the stories start flying, and you go, This is iconic. The Doors, Zeppelin, everybody played there. Troubadour, same way.
Yeah. The Troubadour.
So then, just to move on a little bit, after Accept, you went out and formed this band. And look how badass you were on this. You were one badass dude back then. Not that you're not badass now. But my question is a simple one, David. I did not realize how fucking great this album is. I didn't realize how many of these songs I have on my playlist that I listened to. And I was re-listening to it yesterday, and I go, how did this band, because you only recorded that in 92, and then you didn't come back for 18 years. How were you not huge with that album?
Little silly band out of Seattle destroyed our lives.
Oh, the band we call that the band that shall not be named.
Yeah. I mean, it's I had the momentum from I got fired from Accept, for unruly behavior. Plus, it was already over anyways, and it just came to a boiling point. So I go to LA with momentum now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make it, right? Everybody knew my name. I wasn't, like every actor or band, what restaurant do you work at when they say they're an actor or musician? So I went out there and I had a guy named Glenn Parrish, who was Stevie Nicks' personal assistant. And he had Hurricane Alice at the time, which are some guys from the Midwest, right? Bruce Norman. Yeah. And they had just gotten signed to Atlantic, and we went up to Stevie's house because the drummer brought me up there because he was formerly in Hurricane Alice, and here I am in this mansion going, what the fuck is going on? And that's where I met the Hendrix guy because he was living in a garage because when Jimmy died, he completely lost his mind. So she said, I'll take care of it. So he'd been there since 1970. This is 90, 89. And I had White Snake's management. I had all the ducks in a row. And before I got signed, I only played 9 gigs with that band. Now in LA, that's about a year because you don't play every weekend, right? You play once a month.
Yeah.
Because there's 5,000 bands, selling tickets on the strip to have you come see their band. But we had all of it in a row. And I remember the ballad Loaded Gun was going to be the single. And we shot that as a video. And if you look at the video closely, there's a young boy in that video called Jared Leto. We had auditioned, 100 kids for that shoot, and he walked in, and of course we were tired of looking at young, good-looking models, and he just walked in and had this vibe. I said, "That's the guy." And the girl that's in it, she went on to great things as well. Long story short, back out on the Hard 60 with Ricky Rackman. When the record was released, I hated the song at first. I really hated it. I said, a guy named Dennis Rosencrantz, who had signed Santana, worked for Howard and said, "This is a hit song, buddy. Okay, my boy, this is a hit song." And it got most added to radio than anything they had for years. Like 140 stations added it.
Wow.
And he called me in the office. "I told you, Sonny, you got a hit." Well, 6 weeks later, they're saying, "Get a day job."
Right.
I mean, it was insane, man. I mean, I can't explain that. I'm like, what?
Right.
And this band, this movement in Seattle had been brewing for a couple of years and it exploded overnight. I was in New York with Accept, actually, and a guy named Mike Schnapp at Epic had Pearl Jam, their first one, and said, "These guys are going to be huge." And I listened to it. I said, "That's such crap. What is that? The singer, the thing like that." I didn't get it. And they sold 10 million records, the first record. So he was right. But it was over. I mean, it's one of those things that you just got to swallow,
Yeah.
It's a great album. I'm super proud of it. I made some great contacts. Accept opened the doors for me. Bangalore continued that thing. And then it died.
Yeah.
And I went into hiding. I said I had enough,
Well, you reunited with them years ago at the Firefest. Is any thought? I know you got your solo gig career going, but any thought about bringing it back one more time?
Yeah, I mean, Kurt Mitchell, probably one of the greatest guitarists on the planet. I mean, he's phenomenal. But when we were dropped, he was not a business guy. He hated that whole corporate scene, the record company. It's not him. He's an artist, right? So I hadn't spoken to him because when the band broke up, it was ugly. It's like, "What do you mean we're dropped? What are you talking about? We were just getting ready to go on tour with Whitesnake and open on Slip of the Tongue. What happened?" Everybody was pointing fingers. It was a really ugly time. And we hadn't spoken for 18 years. And Bruce, me, and Kieran Dargan, who did Firefest, called me. I was living in Germany and said, if you can get 2 more of the original members on stage, we'll put Bangalore on and for our show. And I'm like, yeah, that would be really cool. Reunite with the guys. So Curtis initially said, no way, I don't care. Danny Greenberg, the original bass player, said, he's going. So he said yes, then he said no. But being in England, doing that gig, it's packed. And I had people say to me, I've waited 19 years for this. Where were you guys? And I was told because of grunge that rock was dead worldwide. Whereas grunge hadn't really creeped into the European continent till 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah.
And it was already dead in America, but it was just kind of getting some ground here. And then having people, I mean, the first song, sing every word and lose their fucking shit. I mean, it was magic.
Right.
And Curtis is one of those guys that he said to me downstairs in the dressing room, he said, you know, I got a yard, I got a house, I got a family, I teach guitar. He goes, I can walk out of my yard, cup of coffee, stand on my grass, go into my studio, play my equipment, be home with my wife every night and watch Cops and play guitar. And nobody can take me away for 6 months and not pay me and lie to me. I'm in control of my life. And I had to understand that. So,
yeah,
sad but true, but, you know, it's not for him.
Yeah.
So
So
today I was listening to twice we've lost the fight, then twice enemies. Two
that song's
coincidences,
killer,
man. That's a great fucking tune, man.
Yeah,
Thank you. I've been lucky. Huh?
A Perfect Apocalypse. That was a banger. I listened to that one 3 times. I Can't Breathe, and currently I'm paused at the 4th time because we had to do this Anytime at All. I really dig that tune.
Dude, I toured that album. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that We've Lost the Fight is like my life anthem. I think, you know, for the times we're living in right now.
Mine too.
Yeah.
It's nothing but truer words, but it's exactly nice post there. I love it. God bless America.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been really lucky. The Resilient Heart record where you mentioned Apocalypse and Anytime at All, and that was the album I toured with Udo on Steel Factory, and Apocalypse, you know, was a pretty intense track. People love that live. I still play it sometimes, but this new album, if you want to merge into that.
Let me ask you one quick question before we get into that, David, real quick. Because Vince mentioned I Can't Breathe. You got an interesting story behind that song with the shit that went down with it. So tell us about that. What the fuck happened when that song came out?
Well, everybody thinks it's about George Floyd, but that neighborhood where it all kicked off was my stomping grounds. I had an aunt and uncle that were disabled, and God rest in peace, they're both gone now. That happened like 5 blocks from my house where I started my career. So here I am in a total panic while the Lake Street area is burning down in Minneapolis because they can't get out of the house. You know, they're wheelchair bound. And I thought, well, it's spreading into the neighborhoods. They're burning everything. Yeah, I freaked out. But really, I Can't Breathe, it was already written, the title, and then this I Can't Breathe bullshit happened with him and all that mess that kicked off all this shit. Everybody thought I was, you know, talking about him. And I wasn't. I was talking about, you know, what goes on in the hypocrisy of this planet. You're choking me to death. You know, I'm wearing my mask because statistics tell me so. That's in the lyric. I play it live still. People love it. It's pretty much about having a boot on my neck, you know, but in life. And I refuse as a person to be restricted. I'm not ashamed to say that. And the funny thing is, when that record came out, I was contacted by a major media magazine, and it kicked off a firestorm of racism about me.
Really?
Out of New York, I get a call. Oh yeah, but I mean, I just all of a sudden I was supposed to write a formal apology on social media about being a racist, and half my family's black, bro. I mean, or Mexican and Native American. I mean, I don't give a shit what color you are.
Right.
I don't, man. Blood is red. I don't give a fuck. It's the person. It's the content of your character. I mean, I don't give a shit. I've got friends that are black. I've got friends that are Arabs. I mean, I go to school with, I'm the only white dude in there.
No.
And I don't sit around going, hey, she's got the burqa on her head, or he's, I don't give a fuck.
Right.
Well, anyways, I'm told that I have to write this formal apology for racism and blah, 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 blah. And I find out that one of the people working at the magazine is the black person in charge when the woke thing kicked off. And I just said, fuck you. I absolutely will not. I'm not a racist. Fuck you. I don't care if you ever talk about me again.
Right.
And the guy said, well, it'd be very good for your career. I said, fuck, you know how many times I've heard that? I don't owe anybody a fucking apology for a fucking song.
Right.
Fuck you. It's freedom of expression. You can take out of it whatever the fuck you want. And I was pissed. Of course, I was scared. I said, man, they're canceling all my friends. They're canceling everything we do. I'm locked down in this fucking house for 9 months. I couldn't even go out of the street.
Yeah.
I said, no, enough. Yep. So that wasn't about George Floyd. It just kind of ironically kicked into that whole whatever it was.
Right.
And we're still there.
Purposely misunderstood.
Yeah, there's another title. Thank you. I'm gonna put that along with beautiful. Well, it goes perfect. Beautiful mistake. That's a good line. Purposely misunderstood. See, these interviews. Actually, that's right.
Heart attack. Whatever.
Yeah, I tap into stuff when people talk to me. It's weird, especially
it's two credits on the album now.
Yeah.
So the album, Baptized by Fire. First things first, who designed the album artwork for that? It's a kick-ass album.
Richie, thank you. Richie Newton from Newton Artworks is living in Asia. He's a friend of mine. He's got a Metalheads Forever podcast, it's called. And he called me and said, could I have a shot? I want to grow my company into the art and video thing. And I said, okay, how much? And the Chief has always been kind of like my brand. Like I'm resilient. You'll see the Chief on Cacophony. You'll see him on Black Wish Utopia. So I said, yeah, let's make the Chief like this He-Man, Conan the Barbarian, Man-O-War guy. And that's what came out of it. I mean, I looked at like 10 different versions of him, and that's the one I picked. I think he did a great job. I give him kudos. He had another artist working with him. But AI, I don't know how they do it, but it makes a great T-shirt. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so and the band you have behind you is killers too. Oh, sorry, Fred.
No, I was just going to ask that. I don't know much about these guys. Obviously, two brothers, Nicolo and Nello Salvini.
Nicolo and Nelo. His real name is Giovanni. They call him Nelo. The brothers, the Savinelli brothers. And Riccardo Di Morosi is the bassist. He produced and mixed the record. We wrote Wrong Move was the first song. But that all goes back to COVID, because when that kicked off, it kind of happened right here. And I was in the village where it started, actually, ironically, recording some tracks for another guy. And then one morning I woke up and the producer said, don't come to my studio. The city's shut down. I'm like, what happened? A terrorist attack? What? He said, I don't know, man. It's like a ghost town out there, and they're telling us all to stay inside. I'm like, okay. So I turn on the news, and my bridge is closed to his village. I'm like, what is happening? And I had just finished Cacophony of Souls, and it was to be released the 13th of March, 2020. And I had 40 gigs confirmed. And that 2 weeks was a dark time, dude. Every day, canceled. I mean, I just went, great, I'm releasing an album and I can't even leave the house. Well, long story short, kind of eases up, and I'm itching to get to work. And I meet Ricardo because he has a studio in my village, and I had demos to finish and stuff. So, okay, I'm going to get to know this guy, find out what he's made of, because I'm one of those guys that I've had a studio at home, and I'll walk in and track myself and go, "Wow, that's fucking great! You're a badass." And then play it for somebody, and I go, "I ain't buying it." So I'm one of those people that needs to have it sucked out of me to really sell it.
Yeah.
So I quit doing that, and I need people that they know what I sound like when I'm sounding all right and bring it out of me.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, this kid's either going to have it or not. Maybe he's one of these guys with a basic Pro Tools room. And, I went down there, pretty nice setup, started working with him. And it took about 2 weeks, and I started to connect with this kid. And then I started kind of saying, I got this idea. And he said, well, let me have it. And he comes from that era of destruction in my life from metal. Where his bands are bands I've never heard of. These guys listen to bands that are unbelievable. Like you said, 50 likes earlier or when you were talking, and they're incredible bands from, like Poland or Slovakia or someplace like that. You're going, who the fuck is that? These guys are brilliant. Nobody will ever know their name. God bless them. They'll never get out of their little countries because they don't get the exposure.
Right.
So I started absorbing this energy. And then he brings in Nalo. And of course, Iron Allies, that all kicked off with Herman Frank from Accept. And I was demoing songs with him. And I said, Nalo, why don't you track the drums on this? I need real drums. So he did. And I go, wow, that kid can play. And then his brother walks in the room and starts jamming with us. I go, who's that guy? I've always been lucky. I find really great guitar players, and I can't say enough about these kids. I mean, they kind of, I don't know what the word is, been reinvigorated me as a singer. We just kept writing songs. And, I was doing other shit and working with Herman, and then I'm going, man, these guys can fucking write. And they had this really young energy, that when you get old like me, you kind of go, big deal. Been there, done that. And I really needed a kick in the nuts, which I got. And I can't say enough about him. I took Nicolo to America. I used an American backing band, obviously financially to save money. Right. That guy just ripped faces off. People are like, really great guitar players I know were like, who is that kid? Yeah. Kind of like the Nuno Betancourt phenomenon. Like, what did he display? And and I got to bond with him because my test with this new band was, I had booked David Reece performing Bangalore Choir at Hamburg Markthal. It's called Market Hall in Hamburg, but it kept getting pushed back because of COVID. And finally they said, okay, it's on. And I headlined the first night, the Friday. I said, okay, here's the real test. Can I travel with these guys? How do they act on stage? How do they act in hotels? We killed it. I said, I found the new fresh blood. And I'm glued to him. I was in the studio all day yesterday. Then I went to school and we're rehearsing all day today, preparing for Scandinavia. The reviews have been great for the record. Better than Iron Allies, actually. So I'm in a pretty good headspace right now. I mean,
yeah. Oh, the record's killer, man. It's great.
I can't say enough about Ricardo, the bassist. I mean, the redneck in me, I'm chewing tobacco. Excuse me. Right. I got to maintain some of my identity. You know what I mean?
That's right.
I put the cigarettes down 30 years ago, and to get over the withdrawals, I got into snooze, which was probably another stupid. You too?
No, I'm still smoking.
Yeah. I mean, I quit drinking. Yeah. I mean, 6 years this year.
Nice.
But that was a big holdup for me, man. I'm a total alcoholic, and I surrendered. I said, God, whatever, please pull it away from me. I can't do this. Because this business is, it's pretty easy to say blotto to get through it. But
right.
Ricardo, I mean, he's
how my job
great. Huh?
I said that's how my job is too. I haven't quit yet though.
Yeah, it's life, bro.
Yeah.
But Ricardo produced it, co-wrote a lot of the tunes with me, and I was asked by one of you earlier about Andy Susamil in the band and stuff. There was a confusion of who was in the group. Three of the songs.
I was asking you. Yeah, I was asking who was in the band because it had him listed. I wanted to make sure I got him right for the review, and you told me that no, it's not.
He actually wrote "We've Lost the Fight" riff. He wrote "Closer to God" and "My Heart Burns," the music. He was doing a record for another cat from Serbia, and they had a falling out. And I said, Andy, I love Andy's guitar playing, and we've written so many songs together. And then he said, you know what? I just canned this guy, and I've written all this record for him. I got these riffs. If you like something, use it. So he is kind of part of it musically. We're still like that. Unfortunately, he's had enough of the business. He's probably going to move to Paraguay to get out of Germany. He's fed up with government and all that stuff. Long story, but he was one of the first guys I know in the business who refused the vaccine and lost a ton of gigs when it opened up because he said, "You're not sticking me with that shit." And so he said, "I stand by it. I'm not doing it." So he just said, "I'm not conforming to this." But Andy is part of it. Malta, no. Malta's and I are allies in victory. I'm just really focused on this record. I mean, I'm just blown away that people have been so positive about it. And we're playing Scandinavia, as I mentioned, April 11th we kick off, and there's 4 dates there, and we're going to showcase probably 50% of the album in the set, and do I Can't Breathe, and Generation Clash, and Good Die Young from Bangalore, and Freight Train, and those songs. It's a great collective of my history in the set.
Nice.
And somehow, I don't know how it works, but it works. I don't know.
Oh, sounds great. Now, you said you did America not too long ago. Any plans coming back to America?
Yeah, actually, yesterday I spoke with the southwest part of the United States in Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, West Texas, and maybe Vegas. We'll see if it comes into fruition. It's a lot of lip service right now. You give them a number, how many dates you have to do to pay for the bills. Yeah. And I would probably return with Nicolo and use American guys again because he's like my right arm now. I don't want to go play cold with a bunch of cats that aren't really part of the songs, you know. Wow. And he's a musical director for one of the biggest pop stars in Italy. She's like the Beyonce or whatever of this area. Wow. And he's her musical director. So that speaks volumes about him.
Oh, wow.
And it's pop music, but he's a working artist, right? So having him on stage just makes me feel we're going to get through this, you know, because it's weird. You know, you meet new people and you go, this guy really doesn't play it like my guys in Europe, you know. Right. But Nicolo's like, no, this right here, play this like this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. He takes care of it.
So looking forward to reviewing the album for you. I'm just curious, from my own standpoint, since I write reviews for Metal Temple, and I can pretty much guarantee a pretty damn good review on this one, but how much stock do artists put into reviews? When you see a review, do you guys, if it's a good one, I mean, how much stock do you guys put into it?
Well, in the beginning, you're butthurt if you don't get a great review. But what I appreciate most about reviews and journalists is if they actually go through the tracks. And let's say it's a 6 out of 10. But if they don't fail to mention the track and they just kind of blow through it and they've got 10 other CDs to review, I get that. It's mundane. It'd be hard for me to do. But if somebody gives me a mediocre review and says, he really expresses himself great here, it's just not my cup of tea, but this track has something in it and that, you know what I mean? I'd rather read that than a 10 out of 10, buy this album, it's the greatest thing that ever happened. You know what I mean? It's like a review that's detailed, critical, honest, you know, because it's eclectic, right? It's all subjective. Music is,
sure.
I mean, I don't, I mean, so those are the reviews that I like, I guess the most, if there's the right word, but you know, in the beginning, I mean, what do you mean you don't like my record? It's great. I mean, how dare you? But you know, and the Germans
for a 6 out of 10 right now. Okay.
Just be detailed in every song that you mentioned, but but we go back to the Eat the Heat things. There's this stigma about me. The destructor of Accept, the guy that ruined the band. Some of those journalists are still around, and I don't care if I made the greatest album of my life; they're still going to hate it.
Yeah.
So it's weird because in Germany, I'll get like 75% really good, and then there's a 25% of just personal dislike of me. You can read that. That's offensive. I mean, come on, do your job openly and listen to the song. Don't go, well, I remember when you were an Accept,
Right.
and you know, I don't like you, and that's not journalism,
Right.
to me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you can ask me if somebody's a great singer like Dino Jelusic or somebody like that. I'm not going to say out of my what's the word? You know, that guy is freaking brilliant. And there are some singers out there. If they're really good, I'm the first guy to say, check this dude out or check her out. You know what I mean? Lizzie Hale, all these people, Nita Strauss. I mean, come on, man. They're great.
Yeah, we're dying to
I'm
get
not gonna
Dino
say.
on here, man. We love that guy.
I know Dario's. I can put you in contact with his dad. Dario and I are friends. I know if you need help.
Yeah, Fred's been in contact with Dino's dad.
Can you put in a good word for us? Because I talked to Dario a few times email, and he said,
Absolutely.
I would love to get Dino on. We love him.
Yeah.
Have you seen the end of the video, We Lost the Fight? Dino's shouting, We lost the fight at the end.
I noticed him. Yeah, he was right in the center. Yeah.
I had to ask Dario's glorious permission to bring the Golden Child on because I thought, you know what, Dino, I want to. But Dario was pretty apprehensive because he's very protective of Dino, which is great. I mean, I met him in Warsaw. We did a Dio tribute show, and I had to sing like and some other Dio tunes, which aren't easy.
Right.
And this guy did Children of the Sea and some of those really tough Dio songs, and we were warming up in the basement, and I'm looking at this young kid going, who is that guy?
Yeah.
We shared an apartment together for 3 days, and he went on stage and picks up this, like, you know, handheld keyboard. I said, do you mind if I play the double solo with the guitar player? And they're like, oh, you play that too? And he goes, yeah, I can play the drums if you. And he goes, whoa. And multi-instrumentalist, and just, I said, the kid's got something.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, everything he does is really, really great.
Yeah.
We gotta
like the thing
segment.
they did over the pandemic. Which one? He did it with Portnoy. It was
Jane. They did Jane.
Yeah, Jane. Holy wow.
Yeah, Joel Hoekstra, right?
Yeah. What an amazing, you know.
Mm-hmm. You put a group of guys like that together, you're either going to get a pot of shit or something great. You know what I mean?
All right.
I mean, it's true.
I'll get a hold of Dario again, and I'll name drop you, David.
Yeah, say David Reece says, you know, put him on. Dario. Yeah,
because we did Monday. We got a segment here called Monday Metal. Vince and I do, and we did Acid Rain from Jelly Sec, and that song just kicks ass.
Yeah.
He's great. I mean, I got nothing but respect for the kid. I wish him well. And Jeff Scott Soto has been a big player in helping Dino.
Yes.
We love him.
So, I mean, yeah, Jeff is the master of, I mean, he's kind of like me, you know, we're like these guys that everybody looks up to and admires vocally, but we just can't seem to climb over the other side of the iceberg, you know.
Okay,
but Jeff and I are the kind
of something funny.
We have to tell you this. I mean, we totally agree with what you just said.
Yeah, reoccurring. Welcome to the Soto Report.
Yeah,
right. I mean,
it's just another amazing talent. You know what I mean? There's like, oh, man, like,
and he's one as well, bro. I mean, if he sees something in a kid, he will bleed. I mean, you bring him into the TSO situation. That had a lot to do with Jeff. and
Yeah.
and Skolnick and those guys. And I mean, it's like they're not going to say, we're the kings of the road. Good luck, kid. They're going to say, no, put him on stage. And come on, man. I mean, that's what it's about. It's about giving. Music is a giving artistry. It's not a me. Because you're putting yourself, like Ronnie said, I used to rehearse next door to him in LA. And you'd hear this voice coming through the cinder block, right? And I walked over there and watched him play, and then he'd come watch us rehearse. And I was talking to him about Rainbow one night, and he looked at me and he said, put your head in the lion's mouth. If he bites down, there goes your fucking head. I went, wow. And I said, what? And he's like, the fuck, man? It's just rock. And then I asked him, what do you do for that voice? Pulls out a joint, a Guinness, drinks it, smokes it, and goes, that's my vocal warm-up. Yeah. I went, fuck you. He goes, no, I never took a voice lesson in my life. And I'm like, shut up.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing wrong. Damn it.
I mean, some guys, the gods just line up in the stars and they go, make Ronnie Dio the greatest voice of all time. But
yeah, such a nice guy too, man. I was 19 years old and I was working for a recording company, a mobile company, and we recorded Sabbath in Tampa, and I got to spend a little time with him before sound check, and he was just, man, what a sweetheart,
Smart, witty.
Yep.
If anybody had a reason to be bitter, it would have been Ronnie, but he took the cancer like a man. Yeah. I mean, you did that last tour, full-blown stomach cancer and the Bakken. And if you see that on YouTube, he's hurting. And he gave it 100%. I mean, brilliant. Yeah. I mean.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, I have never heard anything bad said about him. Ask you one real quick question, because we know it's getting late and want to let you go. But what can you tell me about the fact that when Halford left Priest, it sounds like you were one of 3 options to get that gig? They gave it to Ripper Owens. What do you think about that? I mean, you think you were close to getting it, or what do you think happened there?
Yeah, I blew it. I had put together a group with Greg Chason from Badlands called Circle of Silence. And we had a song called Dancing on the Sun and pretty extreme vocal stuff. And at that time, I could really do it effortlessly, I guess. And with age, you learn to compensate and get around those old man things because the voice is just collagen, really. It's an instrument, and if you don't take care of it, you're going to lose it. So anyway, long story short, I'm in Tennessee, kind of the Accept story. Fax machine days, a fax pops up, and it's Jane Andrews from Judas Priest, which is Glenn Tipton's better half, managing the band. And we really love what you did on Circle of Silence. We're very interested in auditioning you for Judas Priest. Wow. I mean, I can sing every one of their songs backwards. I'm like, oh my God, I walked away from music, and gone to be a family man and be on a farm and raise animals and all that shit. And what had happened was I started getting these faxes like weekly, and we're really interested in you, but there's 2 other guys, which turned out to be Tim and Ralph Sheepers. So I had to go to Munich to do a press release for that second Circle of Silence record, which I was dreading, but I did it. And while in Munich, I'm meeting with the top editor of Metal Hammer, and I'm telling he said, hey, I heard a rumor about you and Judas Priest. I said, yeah? And he goes, I think you might work. Really? And I'm going, yeah, but I'm pissed because they keep sending me these. We're very interested. And I'm like, well, put me on a plane over to England. I'll do the rehearsal. Let's see what happens. And he goes, well, I've got KK's address in my Rolodex. I said, he goes, you should write him a letter. Wrong idea, pal. So I write this letter. I'm in Munich. I can come over, jam with you guys, mail it from there, from Munich. And I get back to the States, and there's like 5 how dare you faxes from Jane. step over me, you just blew any chance you had of an audition. KK is fucking furious. How did you get his home address? And I didn't tell anybody how I got it, but I blew that opportunity, and I ate that one. No, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, you want me to come over, quit blowing smoke up my ass, give me an audition. If it works, I mean, it probably wouldn't have worked out anyways. Tim was better suited for it. And look what KK's Priest is doing now. They're really starting to.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that story. I blew it.
That didn't work out. Would love to have seen that. Actually, I just did see KK's Priest last week, and he can still shred up there. KK, he's still got it. Yeah, he's got it, man.
I mean, I'm happy to see that his tour is going well because let's be honest, that the way that kicked off and all that bad press and everything, Halford and those guys rose above it, and KK just kept kind of seeming like he wanted them to bring him back, and I was like, dude, KK's Priest, really? Why do you? I mean, but then, boom, the second album comes out, and Ripper's. He's another guy. I mean, when KK is not touring, what's Ripper doing? He's playing everywhere.
Yeah,
and he's like me and Soto. I mean, we don't stop.
Yeah,
and it pays dividends, And I'm glad KK found his feet, and Ripper's the guy. Utmost respect for Tim. I mean, he's a good human being.
No.
Yeah.
Great talent.
Me too. They put on a great show.
Yep.
Yeah. Was Burning Witches on that gig?
Yes. Yeah. Burning Witches, LA Guns, and KK. I got to meet Burning Witches. They're very cool, so I got their information. We tried to get them on. And
they came out to see. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I was just gonna say Tracy Guns still has it. He looked great on stage too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great player.
Burning Witches are very good. Good band, good entertainment. Courtney Cox is with them now from the Iron Maiden, so good show.
I played a gig. It's called Ohlefeld, I think, in the city in Switzerland, and they all came out to see me play on the Brazilian Heart Tour. And there's these 5 chicks standing there with their arms crossed, staring at me. Who are those chicks? Oh, that's Burning Witches. I'm like, who?
Witches.
And then all of a sudden, you start reading about it and blah, blah, blah. And incidentally, Serena, the original singer of Burning Witches, is on her own now. And I'm in contact with her management, and she has said to him, I really like David's lyric writing and his work. Can you put us in touch? So when she gets back from tour, I'm supposed to sit down with her and kind of go through and try to write some songs with her, which, I mean, awesome. She's amazing as well. Yeah. That girl can howl, man, like Lizzie Hale on steroids. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. We love Lizzie Hale too.
Oh, yeah. My wife, fanatic for Hailstorm. My wife loves Kotzen, Lizzie, Shinedown. I mean, I'm surrounded by music here. I'm pretty lucky.
Yeah, awesome.
There's definitely a bunch of really great, really great bands out there for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate in this podcast to have interviewed quite a few newer bands to help jumpstart them. I mean, Wings of Steel is like our favorite. If you ever should get a chance to listen to Wings of Steel, we just had on Brian Tatler from Diamond Head. We've had on quite a few bands over the list. We just had Johnny Kelly from Quiet Riot. We love the new bands and the veterans like yourself. Anything we can do to help promote it.
God bless you, man. I mean, kudos to all of you and to the bands that you're talking about. I mean, that's really without you. There's 2 kinds of musicians, listener and player. I'm sorry. That's it. We're all in our own art form, and podcasts are kind of the new
thing. Yeah.
Personal contact journalism in a way. And I like it because it's a budding opportunity for young bands. Like I said, with Ricardo on them, I can get in the car today at rehearsal and they'll be blasting something. Who the fuck is that? And they go, oh, that's so-and-so from Croatia. And I go, listen to the singer. I'm like, oh my God.
Right.
I couldn't pronounce her name, but you know, they're always doing the underground metal scene. They're all.
Yeah, it's like
I think
40% of
are you
our
talking
audience
about
on
that
YouTube is from Japan.
Daria? Is that who you're talking about? The girl from Croatia? Daria?
Yeah.
Brunette? That's the girl we
Yeah.
had on for that Christmas. The
Awesome.
red silk dress.
Yeah.
She's got a killer voice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get her
God.
on too. She won't respond to me either, but that might have something to do with the restraining order that she's got against me.
Right? Shit. Anyway. Well, thank you so much for your time, man. We appreciate it. You've been a really great guest, and I know you had to wake up in an odd time too.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Time, so
Thank you,
extra
David.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. I mean, you know what? The wife looked at me. She goes, "What do you mean you got an interview at 1:30 in the morning?" I said, "I committed when I was in the States." And, you know, I kind of forgot about it, to be honest. And then you got your email popped up. I went, "Oh, fuck." You know, I mean, I think as I was touring it, I was like not thinking that I was going to be 6 hours ahead of you when I said, "Yeah, no problem." And then it says
It's so bad when
7:30.
you told me what time, but you're a trooper,
Oh,
man.
no, man. I've had a blast. I've had a blast. I won't be able to sleep all night because I'm stoked now.
Right.
I got the adrenaline going. And I've got
Right those
I
two
didn't
songs
some
right
get
there.
time at all. And
Yeah. Beautiful mistake. Purposely misunderstood.
You can write those tunes by sunrise, right? You know.
Well,
Yeah.
You never know what'll happen after the 18th cup of coffee. I mean,
That's right.
go jump the wife and then go back to work.
Whatever makes you sick.
Yeah. All right.
She's up there going, "Fuck you." I can just hear her rolling her eyes right now. Fuck
way.
Awesome.
Well, David, you got to come back on in the future, brother. You know, next time you.
I'm all yours, baby.
David.
All right,
man. I'm all yours. Let me know when this is out, man. I'll be sure. I'm actually, the Facebook police have arrested me. I'm on restriction now for 6 days.
Okay.
I don't know what I did. I pissed somebody off, but it was.
I got
it political.
Months ago for a week. 10 years ago.
Yeah.
In a
my God
message.
This will be on.
Oh my God.
March 30th, too. By the way, this show will air.
Beautiful.
Saturday at 9:00 our time, which will be like 5 a.m. your time. So you can check it out.
I should be out of jail by then. So I'll let the Facebook police know that I'm going to be a good boy and not share a metal band. Or I think I'm allowed 5 shares now, and I think I did 6 that day, and I got this blocked. And I'm like, my wife's going, "What have you done? What did you say?" I said, "Nothing, man. I was just sharing bands." So I'm in jail.
All good.
I love you guys. Right. Thank you very much.
Love you too.
Right, thank you so
Ciao,
much.
David. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.